Hey everybody, it's Brian Asbury, and I just wanted to welcome you to today's episode. If you could, like today's episode, hit that subscribe button, and let's continue to grow the developmentally speaking brand.
Today, my guest is undefeated mixed martial artist and WWE Tough Enough champion, Mr. Daniel Puder. Daniel, how are you, sir?
I'm amazing, bro. Having fun, hanging out with my son today a little bit. So it's good. Making a bunch of phone calls for business. Fire away.
Good, good. I'm going to ask you a question you've probably been asked a couple times. What made you want to step into the world of professional wrestling?
Man, so one of my mentors, Dave Meltzer. You ever heard of
hmm
him?
hmm
So Dave and I built a relationship over. I don't know. I mean, it's probably since I was like 17 years old. Frank Shamrock introduced me to him. I mean, I loved watching pro wrestling when I was younger. But then his wife and him were like, "Hey, you should try out for Tough Enough." And I was fighting at the time, so I was like, "Oh, that's a good idea." And we were just hanging out one day, and they said, "You should try out. Check this out. It just got on." So I tried out, and it was good. I performed in some ways very well, and some other ways I was a little challenged.
So, what was the process of applying for Tough Enough and like getting set up, getting selected to even do Tough Enough?
Yeah, so the process in the beginning was send a video in. You can actually check it out. It's online. It's pretty funny. You could probably do an overlap the video for YouTube or show it off. I was riding a motorcycle, cut a promo. Uh, Overall, it was just funny. And then they picked out of like the 10,000 plus people that sent videos in. They whittled it down to I think it was like 50 for Venice Beach. We all went down to Venice, and we went against ourselves. It wasn't even against other people, but it was an obstacle course. It was how many times we could bench press. I think it was 225. We went into the ring and cut a promo, and yeah, it was pretty awesome to be able to see the level of competitors, athletes, and having some awesome WWE wrestlers and coaches out there running the whole entire thing.
As it progressed, was it what you thought it would be? Because this Tough Enough was a little bit different than the previous three seasons, it seemed.
Yeah, so I mean, I thought it was a little different. At the end of the day, I thought that I thought that having um, becoming a pro wrestler was different than not only what I thought it would be, but it was also different than what I mean, people think they see the wrestling on TV.
hmm
And I saw I was already a pro fighter, so I saw that world. My challenge is I didn't understand how much went back into the scenes, how what I had to do, how I had to train, a bunch of those things, and so I didn't understand that, and um, it was somewhat difficult
hmm
because it was a whole different world than what I was used to and trained, and it was a huge blessing to be able to see what how I performed and what I learned through the whole entire process.
Is there any particular moments that stand out more than others during the filming of Tough Enough?
For sure, the every moment behind the scenes was like super incredible. It's pretty funny actually. Like there was a lot that was behind the scenes that people didn't watch. I think the most interesting piece that showed me what really happened or what was going on was the first night that it was big and it was a couple other people. They took us out to dinner in Connecticut and they ordered shots for everybody. And there were 4 out of 8 of us that said we don't drink, and I was one of the 4. And by the end of it, I was the only one not drinking when they were going out every night. So for me, it was more of seeing the commitment, the follow through, what I did in my life to be
hmm
able to achieve, the goals and the outcomes that I wanted to, and it worked. I mean, it was difficult at some points. I had somebody that said, if you don't drink with me, then I'm going to kick your ass. And I'm like, okay, go ahead. They didn't, obviously, but it's just interesting just to see, it's interesting to see how people show up in life over a period of time when they say they're committed to something, but they're not necessarily committed to
Mm-hmm.
it.
Do you feel like you had a target on your back going into this because of your background prior to Tough Enough?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a huge target on my back the whole entire time. I think I had a bigger target on my back the day that I, took Kurt Angle and kind of wrapped him up a little bit. That was definitely a massive target on my back. Definitely after it aired on TV. They didn't know what happened that day on the Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
but after it aired on Thursday, by Friday and Saturday, the whole company was like, holy crap, look at what just happened. So that was pretty interesting. In some ways, I was not as high level of a wrestler as what I needed to. Like we did 8 weeks of training for pro wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
so it was a whole different world for me. And some things I didn't get right off of that. Some things I got a little bit faster. I worked on promos every day. I busted my butt in training every day. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I stayed very focused on what I needed to accomplish. And I put a lot of effort into it.
You could tell, especially with you, like you're like me, I'll do it. Like some people will be nervous, like oh, maybe not me, but you're just like front of the line, let's go. Like this is why I'm here, and that always stood out to me.
Yeah, thanks. So it's interesting because I think my biggest challenge. So number one, in front of the line when it was on Tough Enough versus when it was behind the scenes, two different examples. So
Mm-hmm.
when I got to Tough Enough, Stephanie McMahon came in and told me where to stand.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe she set me up to win.
Mm-hmm.
I believe she put me in the right position, and I've had people do that in my life before. So I don't know if it's true, but I'll tell you that what I was told by a couple of the people is I got more TV time based upon I was either first out of the gate or I was last out. Now, when we were in the hallways and stuff and filming, I would push my way to the front
Mm-hmm.
on every single thing. Well, I want to get the most, my goal is to win, right? So I want to get the most amount of, TV time and I want to be front and center every single time. So there's just, it's interesting. Some people didn't have those. I was doing promos 3 or 4 days a week. I was not going home on the weekends. When everybody else went home after the TV taping, they would go home and then go back to Connecticut to train. So they go home for a couple of days. I would go straight back to Connecticut and go keep training. So I think it's just I've learned what I've learned in life, and I run, an organization that we have 140 employees. We do this year over 10 million in rev, and it's the same kind of focus. I found the right partners, built the right team, put the people together. So it's interesting to be able to look at like I did the same exact focus and commitment for pro wrestling, MMA too, as I do today, and it's I continue to become successful and more successful in what I do.
So when you win Tough Enough, what was the next step? Because this was pre-performance center days. Developmental wasn't what it is today back then.
Totally, 100%. So they sent me down to OVW. OVW was great. OVW was a challenge. It's interesting to see OVW talent and mindset versus like on TV talent and mindset. Little bit different there. Obviously, you're on national TV, so people think they're a little bit bigger star. Interesting to see how people think they're a star. Second year off TV, nobody cares. Not all the time, but it's interesting. And it was great. I loved Danny. I loved Al Snow. I loved the team they had down there. Lance was great. I don't think they understood what to do with me. I think that was one of the biggest challenges because it was such a different. So UFC did their first reality show. I think it was like 3 or 4 months after I won Tough Enough. So Dana offered me a deal going into the first reality show. I think that was one of the biggest challenges because most people didn't understand across the board. They understood what MMA fighting was, but it wasn't what it is today. So it was just a different thing, and they didn't understand. They were used to the same thing, and they've tried different models, But the other thing is I didn't know what it was conceptually. So at the end of the day, I didn't know how to fit my persona, image, brand, everything else into the pro wrestling world. Like I was never in the pro wrestling world there. I saw it, but I didn't understand how to build it. So super challenging on, I think, both sides. I believe I did really well in different pieces of that and learned how to grow.
Being in OVW, did any particular trainer work with you more than others or try to help you? Because I just feel like maybe sometimes going in there, having the background you did, maybe they would, seeing other developmentals, they would either neglect or they would focus on the Tough Enough kid or whoever.
Yep. So Al Snow supported me a ton. He gave me one piece of advice in life: it's better to be respected than liked and not respected. One of the biggest pieces of advice I take to heart today. The second person was Paul Heyman, and that guy is like he knows how to work things. Like he's pretty smart dude. I was really impressed with him. Really enjoyed working with him, and it was a lot of fun. Put it that way.
During your time in OVW, did they have? You kind of mentioned it earlier, but was there any initial plans for you as time went on, or was it just they just had no idea what to do?
So that was the biggest challenge. Is at some point they actually told me, they sent me a letter. I think it was my contract. I think started like 12 or something like that of that year, something around there, mid-December-ish. And in, I think it was like August-ish, they sent me a letter that said, "Oh, here's the new deal for next year." And they missent it to me. They shouldn't have sent it to me. It got missent for some reason. And that kind of put a bad taste in my mouth. They were trying to offer me like 50 grand a year. And I'm like, no, thanks. And it was just really interesting. I look at, I was showing up to every practice. I was working my butt off. I think that to me, there's an integral thing on when you put a deal together, follow through the deal. And it was only guaranteed 1 year. I get it. And, I learned a lot from that. It was a good experience to learn.
See, I've seen people like when you talk about this deal, I understand where you're coming from, and other people be like, "Oh, he didn't love wrestling, he didn't want to be here." No, like if your word is only as good as you make it, and I could see where that would be like a slap in the face, or be like they didn't know what to do with you, or they're like, "Oh, he'll just take it," because he's young or what have you.
Yep. I mean, think of if you were making on YouTube on your show and everything, you were making 250,000 a year, and then YouTube just comes to you and goes, "No, we're going to pay you like 50 grand." But your overhead and expenses or whatever, right? Like, and their contract is, so it's just interesting to me. It's a unique deal, and it was a really good learning experience.
How dare you state
It
that for
adds a lot of
yourself?
value now because we have so many staff. It adds a lot of value for me on how I treat people. And I find that there's short-term relationships, there's long-term, and I believe that WWE and other companies in the MMA space think more short term.
Hmm.
Um, and I choose not to treat people like that. So
That's a good thing, though. It's a learning experience, all of
you know what?
this.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely. I love learning experiences. I love the process of how I learn, and I've learned how to learn a lot faster because if you get punched in the face, you start to learn a lot faster in life.
So you get this, they want to pay you less money, and then you don't agree to it. So how much longer were you there after that?
I think it was probably a couple months,
Hmm.
and then they said they released me a little bit early, but with a couple months ago.
So what was your next move after WWE?
To go back to fighting, I signed a fight contract, went to Strikeforce, trained with them, um, and started winning fights.
Did you leave pro wrestling behind after that, or did you dabble a little bit before completely walking away from it?
Yeah, yeah. So I've wrestled in Japan. I've done some shows in the U.S. Um, I enjoyed Japan thoroughly. I thought that having the Japanese culture is so different than any other culture in the Western world,
Hmm.
and I really enjoyed training with them over there. I know in 2010 I did. I think it was like an 18-day on the road. I don't know if it was 16 shows or 18 shows. I forget, but it was a bunch. We traveled a ton. Had a really good experience.
So after Japan, you decided to walk away from professional wrestling?
I mean, I did a couple more shows. I did one in LaPorte, Texas. Did one in Miami.
Hmm.
Um, where else? We're gonna start doing. So I'm gonna do some shows uh, sometime this year, but it's gonna be obviously it's for fun these days.
Hmm.
And we'll be announcing those on DanoPuter.com sometime. I think in August or September. They'll be in Arkansas, right outside of Memphis.
Okay. So how is life outside of the ring? What are you up to these days?
So I own a company called Foundation Academies. We have private schools, security company, branding agency, health company. We have 140 something staff. Amazing team, great culture, and we have over 1,811 students in 3 states. We just partnered with Mike Tyson on one school, working on a couple really big schools with other brands for 2024. We might do two more, and for 2025, we're probably going to do about 10 to 15, maybe up to 20 schools around the country. So we're always looking for people to come and apply. If anybody on here is listening, they're like, "Hey, I want to work in a school." Like that'd be really cool to work in the Mike Tyson Academy. We're here to help kids. I mean, a lot of kids today are being bullied, like I was
Hmm.
when I was a kid. A lot of kids, are young and they want mentorship and they want to build creativity. And so we're doing some really cool stuff where we can help our next generation. Spend a lot of time with my family. My
Hmm.
son's 3.5 now. My wife. So we're if I only go for 1 or 2 days somewhere, like next week I'll be in Arizona for a day. But besides that, when we go on longer trips, they get to travel with me. That's a lot of fun. Um, and then I get to hit the gym. That's super fun. My cold plunge was in there this morning for 6 minutes at like 47 degrees. So I love what we're up to. I love building businesses. I'm the president and founder of our organization. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited for what's to come.
Where can people get more information about it at?
Yeah, foundationacademies.com, danielpuder.com. And you can just Google Daniel Puder if you go and check out social media, that sort of thing too. Let me ask you, what do you need for your podcast? Obviously, good questions. Love the background.
Thank you.
What do you need to grow? And where do you live, by the way?
I live in southern Indiana, so I'm like an hour north of
Ooh,
OVW. So I
awesome.
got to be
I
around
love Indiana.
developmental a lot when I was younger. So that's what kind of made me want to do this podcast. I think my biggest struggle right now is growing the product on other social media platforms like YouTube does well, the Instagram and like the Twitter. It just does for some reason. I get stuck in these numbers. I get lots of views, but nobody wants to follow. It seems like, but I do tackle like a very special market with people that went through developmental. People that were not just on the main roster. So I get that what I'm doing, like, it only goes to a certain market of people because like
Yep.
people outside of Louisville really didn't see OVW or when they had Tampa or so a lot of these other developmental wrestlers some people may not have heard of. So I'm trying to grow the brand more and put it out there and I'm like stuck like it either like I get lots of views and then it just flounders and then like a week later it goes up. So I'm trying to figure out how to grow my brand.
So I think you're doing it the right way. Number one is building your brand on with other people's brands. I think that's huge. I think that's awesome. I think social media is fast. I'd love to look at your Instagram and TikTok and you can do LinkedIn too and Twitter and repurposing content horizontally, vertically. That's always fun to like look at how can you create different types of content.
Hmm.
Definitely on TikTok, like short little pieces. And around. Do you have a website yet?
Not yet. I do. I own the domain name. I just haven't built it yet.
What's the domain that you got?
I believe it's developmentalllyspeaking.com. An actual fan
Nice,
like
awesome,
purchased it and then gave it to me. Like gave me everything. So I was like,
nice.
okay.
Um, I love it, bro. So we get to. I'll tell you some funny stories about WWE too. Like, so when I won Tough Enough, Kurt Angle came up to me. That was a funny night. So not only did he come up to me and congratulate me, but Hulk Hogan came up to me and congratulated me. That was pretty cool. Um, I've talked about the story. It just came out. I talked about it in my book. I'm launching my book this next month called Significance Breeds Success. And in Significance Breeds Success, we talk about how the first day I was on SmackDown, I went up to the ring crew and I'm like, hey, I want to help you guys set up a ring. And it was interesting because Al Snow, I go, hey, Al, can I help people set up the ring? And Al Snow's like, yeah, go ahead. And then he brings the other 7 contestants up and he goes, you guys get to go build the ring with Puder. Dude, they wanted to kick my ass because they were like, we're building this ring. We have to, they thought they were superstars for whatever reason. I'm
Mhm.
like, dude, y'all aren't necessarily superstars. Y'all got to get your stuff together. It was pretty interesting to be able to see, um, just in general, like what their thought patterns were. For me, I was like, uh, this is fun. Like I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow, I wanted to have fun. And it was a different world than, what I was usually used to. So, pretty interesting. Um, I got kicked one day. I don't know if I've talked about this story before. I got kicked one day in the ring by the videographer. They had the moving camera
Mhm.
and he kicked me and I turned right into where his camera was. After that day, I went up to him. I'm like, "What's the deal?" He goes, "You, uh, I had a perfect shot on you. I was in the ring. All you had to do was get in front of that camera." And so he taught me about hard cameras and how it's set up in WWE and how they have moving cameras on the ground. They pop up in the ring, um, and they were taking bets on me. It was the video team was betting that I would win, and it was the audio team that was betting on other people. And so every week I heard they were betting. That was pretty cool. Story I've told a couple times was I was going back every week to WWE headquarters, and the week that I went back, um, one week I went back after I think it was after Kurt Angle's wrestling event, and a guy was smoking a cigarette outside, and he looks at me. He goes, "You're gonna win. Good job, kid." I'm like, I'll just give this advice to everybody. If you don't know what question to ask in a situation, ask the person, what question should I be asking right now? So I had no clue. I said, thank you so much for the support. I just figured you supported me.
Mm-hmm.
What I should have asked is, tell me what you do for the company and build a little better relationship. Spend a little time. Come to find out, after I won, I went back to WWE. Same dude was smoking a cigarette. I'd love to meet this guy at some point. It'd be super cool. Same dude was smoking a cigarette. And I walked by and he's like, I told you you'd win. And I looked at him, I go, how did you know? Or like, tell me, like, what's the deal? He goes, I'm the dude in charge of the fan votes. And I'm like, okay. He goes, I saw your numbers rising. Like you were getting more votes than anybody else and you're doing a great job. And so I'm like, I appreciate you. Thank you. And it was just interesting to like look at, there were so many people in my company that are like really good humans.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, a lot of people in the company, they do really good work. I mean, the branding, what they built as an organization. I feel obviously a lot of leadership that was done. So it was cool to watch. It was cool to be able to see, people believing in me, people backing me. I was new to the industry. I wasn't on like a indie circuit before. And it was great. And I built a couple of really good friendships. One of them is Gangrel,
Mm-hmm.
David Heath, and he's a good friend of mine still today. If he needs anything, he can call me. I was at his wedding. I've been to his training facility, and I'm very impressed with him as a human, his family, and what he's created with his life. Like the challenges he's gone through and who he's become, they are just freaking awesome. I absolutely love it.
How would you have wanted your WWE main roster career to have gone? Like, what did you have in
It's a good
mind for
question.
yourself?
That's a very good question. I I wanted to have more fun and more time,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm very blessed that my life went how it went because where I'm at today has been a lot of hard work, a lot of effort. Um, but the impact I'm making on this world, the support I'm helping kids, like what I've done within law enforcement too, my nonprofit, our schools, I'm in the right position. If I would have become a superstar, I probably wouldn't have done what I'm doing today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was meant to be. What I got out of the whole experience of being in WWE is learning to grow and building myself. And it was a really good experience, and I'm really blessed that I got that experience. Would I've loved to been heavyweight champ? Yeah, of course. But I would have loved to had a longer run. Yes. And it wasn't in my cards.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfect how it works.
See, what I don't think a lot of fans understand is, yeah, you won Tough Enough, but then they want you to get more training. So how do they keep Daniel Puder on TV, training on TV? Like I think a lot of people just expect he won Tough Enough. He's on SmackDown or Raw every week now. That's like that as a fan. That's probably their perception of how it should have went.
So yes, and um, I think that every person they've had on Tough Enough, they haven't figured out how to build them.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same thing over and over and over and over. You take somebody that's newer to wrestling and you don't know how to build them. So if you do it once, okay, that's on you. You do it 5 or 10 times, now you're looking like an idiot because you don't know actually how to build
Mm-hmm.
somebody on TV. And so I find that yeah, if you don't know how to build somebody, that they spent tens of millions of dollars on the shows and advertising, building. And why would you just throw a brand away?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I have no clue. politics in that organization. And they didn't know how to do it. They knew how to do one simple thing, which was to build a normal wrestler that knew how to wrestle over a longer period of time. So it was cool. It is what it is.
Hmm. So you've had all this success and everything that you've done. What is some advice that you would give to somebody getting into whether it's MMA or professional wrestling or just in general?
So my advice is, if you want to beat up body, if you're not ready mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, don't do it. Um, get yourself together as human first. Know what you stand up for. You're gonna face a lot of people in those worlds, in the pro sports world or entertainment world. Period. So that's one. Two, learn how to learn fast. Study, and just learn how to learn about yourself, about what you're going into. Third is really have a vision for your career. So a lot of these wrestlers, they're broke, they're not doing well, their body's beat up when they're older, and they're not making much money when you're on the indie circuit and you have bills to pay or family to pay for. So think about what you're going to do. For me, I went back to fighting, and here's the thing: I went through this challenge. Went through the challenge, didn't know what I was going to do. Got caught in another fight contract. Had fight contract problems. Took me like 12 months to get out of it. There's a lot of challenges in the sports world. Get a good agent, get a good lawyer to represent you, take a piece of the deal so they're invested in it. Definitely a lawyer. Like, find a lawyer, give them 10 or 20% of whatever you make, and make sure they'll stick by you for contracts. And even pay them that 10 or 20% when you're big. Like, take care of your number one person that's going to protect you, which is a lawyer. Learn how to read contracts, build a good team around you. Don't buy into all the money that comes in. Do not turn down deals before. Don't agree with. I was on a phone call today about something, and the guy said, a brand, and I said, "Do you understand? Like, are you okay with working with that brand?" So I'm more picky today of who I surround myself with, the people I have in my life. Like, people ask me, "Hey, would you go hang out here?" I'm like, it's either I leave my family for 4 or 5 hours to hang out, or I hang out with my family. And it was interesting. Do you have any kids by chance?
I have 3 boys.
That's awesome. So my son in October, you'll probably get this. My son in October, I went away. I was doing, in September, I don't know how many trips. I think it was like I think it was a trip every week for 2 nights for the whole month of September, something like that. It was crazy. And by October, my son looks at me after like the third or fourth, or maybe the fifth trip, and he goes, "Papa, please don't leave again." And I'm like, "Oh man, it just freaking killed me inside." I was like, "Okay." So I literally got on the phone that night after I went to bed, and I like minimized every trip I had for the last 6 months, or 7 or 8 months now. And so it's interesting on, if I have to go somewhere, I'll go. Like, literally next week, I fly into LA or Arizona in the morning. I do a red eye back that night, so I'm only gone for one night. So there's things like that where look at the value of who's valuable to you. I find that a lot of people will bypass a solid foundation or people that are working to help you, or a family, for money and fame. If that's where you want to go, you're probably going to find those types of people that will bypass you at some point and not care about you for more money and fame. So surround yourself with really good people in life. And I believe I did good at that. I didn't do great at that when I was younger. And today I vet a lot of people and hang out with, I believe, at least for me, when I spend time with somebody, it means a lot, and people know that, because I don't spend that much time with anybody unless it's work related.
What's next for you? You got your hands in a lot of pots here, and you're a busy man, and you got a family. What's next for Daniel?
Building the companies. We're gonna build 100 schools in the next 5 years, and we have some really good partners. I'm really excited about our partners, and Travel. I'm starting. Last year was the first real vacation I had in like 14 years. So I built a company big enough I could take some time off. We're doing 3 weeks in Europe this summer, and you know, just having fun, building a good business. So it's a lot of fun.
Where can people reach out to you at?
Yeah, if you go to danielpuder.com, mylifemypower.org, foundationacademies.com, let us know, if somebody wanted to, build a school with us, you want to work for a school system, you want to build something really cool. We want good people that care about our kids, and care, whether in the health field, and come out and apply and come out and be a part of our team.
I just want to say thank you for taking a little time out today to talk about your career and everything that you've got going on. It's been an honor, sir. And if there's anything I could ever do, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to help out.
Bro, I appreciate you a ton. Thank you. And if you can send this to me, I'll post it on all my social too, and I'll put it out. And you're a blessing. I appreciate it, brother. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the time.